Welcome to the Growth Boss podcast, where we seek out the secrets to high-performing campaigns from some of the smartest marketers in the world. I'm your host, Gerrid Smith. Today, I have Tom Casano with me, and he's going to teach us how to generate 700 B2B leads in 1 month with LinkedIn ads. Tom, thanks so much for being here today.
Gerrid, I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome. So for those who are not familiar with you, would you mind sharing just a little bit about your background?
Yeah, gosh, I've been doing marketing for over 12 years, a lot of B2B marketing. I had built and started an SEO agency back some time ago, wound up selling it. And, I've always kind of just been called to marketing. I don't know what it is. And as you do, digital marketing is just kind of here to stay and it's grown ever since. And there's just a lot of different interesting areas in marketing. And so I can't avoid marketing. It just keeps pulling me back.
Yeah, I love it. How did you transition from SEO to LinkedIn advertising?
It's always interesting when you're doing marketing, like especially when you're marketing your own marketing services, it's very meta. So even when we're marketing SEO services, we have to use marketing strategies and channels and campaigns and tactics to market our own services. So a lot of what we were doing during selling SEO services was marketing services, right? So there was a lot of B2B marketing and sales throughout that time. And I learned a whole lot. It's really interesting because you're always learning, right? There's so many different types of channels and strategies you can use. And, LinkedIn is a super powerful platform and it's really great in the B2B space.
Yeah. What do you feel like are some of the bigger differences between, obviously a lot of people are talking about Google Ads, Meta advertising, and LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's a great question. Google Ads has very high intent. Someone searching for this thing right now, they have high intent and they might be more likely to convert into a sales meeting or, whatever that next step is at the bottom of the funnel or middle of the funnel.
Yeah.
Facebook, TikTok, like other social media platforms are very B2C, right? Lots of consumers on there. It's pretty relatively cheap actually to get in front of people comparatively. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is amazing for targeting. If you know that our ICP, the person we're targeting is the CFO, renewable energy companies that are 500 to 1,000 people that also have this skill or in that location, like you can get so targeted because the job titles and the functions and the industries and the companies they're at. And there's just so many different interesting ways you can target people with LinkedIn. It's really good for targeting for B2B marketing.
Okay, that's awesome. So let's dive into this campaign. 700 leads in 1 month. Let's kind of start at the beginning. What happened when you brought this client on? How did you ensure kind of in the setup phase that this client was set up for success? What sort of interviews did you do with them or their clients? And how do you kind of go about that with new clients?
Yeah, there's a few different components at a high level we want to get right. We certainly want to know exactly who we want to target. If the ICP is really dialed in, like let's say if we know we're targeting CFOs at tech companies, that's great. And if we don't, maybe there's a few different types of people we're targeting. So we'll want to test those. We can create different campaigns and try them out and see how they perform. So at a high level, we want to know who we're targeting. We want to know what are their biggest pain points. It's like marketing 101, right? What are the biggest pain points or what are their goals or the benefits or the outcomes, the things that they're after? And the better that those two things align at a high level, the better the overall performance of the campaign will go. And it's pretty obvious, but it's just kind of funny how easy it is to forget that when we're just thinking of like, oh, what kind of image should I use to get their attention? Or what I want them to do on like our website. But really, it's like, if we're resonating with the copywriting of what their pain point is or what their goal is, then that's the most important starting point. And then from there, over time, we can narrow down the audience. Because for this campaign that I did for a client, we were targeting CEOs of small companies. And we tried a number of different things over time. Are the company sizes 20 to 50 people? Is it 50 to 200 people? We were also trying to target COOs to see if they would perform better, human resource managers. And there was another function I'm forgetting now. So we were trying a number of different things there. And then the messaging is going to change a little bit with each one of them, right? Operational people, it's more about streamlining and workflows and operations and efficiency and automation and those sorts of things. And then, once at a high level, we have some general ideas of the messaging of the copywriting and the wording we want to use to pull those people in. It's really important on LinkedIn if we're trying to generate leads. Now, again, taking a step back, there are a lot of different strategies we can use. We could do demand generation, lead generation, brand awareness, thought leadership, full funnel marketing, account-based marketing. Like there's a lot of different approaches, right? But in this case, if we're just looking to generate leads, then to generate that lead, just like, again, it's kind of rung true for the last 10 or 15, 20 years. It's like there has to be something really compelling that they'd want to get. A lead magnet, a download, a guide, an ebook, a template, something, a white paper, right?
Yeah.
And so then we have to think about what is starting with the title of what that thing would be that would be most compelling, right? So if someone's really struggling with, they're doing something manually, right? And AI is like a great example because there's so much interest. If you have any form of AI in your product or it's one of the features of your product and you're talking about that, like people gravitate towards it. The cost per lead is a lot lower, the conversion rate's a lot higher. And so then just thinking about what is that downloadable thing that they would love. And we could play with different titles or different pain points or goals or things that will help you with. So we could test different things. But that is so, so important just as a starting point. And if it's really good, like if I'm really struggling with X and it feels maybe niche, like maybe I'm in the energy industry and I'm in a certain role, I'm like a COO or operations manager in an energy company and got this problem and other people in my company don't understand it and other people outside of my industry don't understand it. And then I see this thing that's gonna like help me solve my problem.
Yeah.
Like you'd be surprised if people click the button and download it and you as a company are getting their name, email address, you can get their phone number, company name, LinkedIn profile link. Like there's a lot of information you can exchange there. And so yeah, you'd be surprised at how well it performs.
Okay. And I assume that you help your clients kind of put these lead magnets together.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Okay.
Sometimes they've got good stuff. So, I'm sure you've seen all kinds of different companies, right?
Yeah.
Different size companies with different resources. So it's really nice when a company already has, 5 or 10 different lead magnets and they've
Yeah.
designed them and created them and all this stuff. And
Absolutely.
sometimes a startup, they don't have one,
Yeah.
when you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's not that hard to put something together. I
Yeah.
mean, you can take an existing blog post and repurpose it, or you could, interview someone at the company, transcribe the audio automatically. You can have ChatGPT help you outline it or draft it. It's not like rocket science. It's not like
Yeah.
a 3-week project. It's like, let's get at least a few pages together, something valuable to give the person.
Sure. And do you feel like there is a go-to type of lead magnet that you lean towards more than others? As an example, a checklist or a white paper. You mentioned a couple of those webinars. I don't know if those are still, a thing. Is there something where you're like, hey, let's see if we can do a checklist for you as an example?
Yeah, it's, what I find works best. And again, there's a lot of different ways a lot of different names you can give it, but it's a great question. You could be something basic like the ultimate guide to,
Okay.
and then, whatever the outcome, whatever they want to achieve. It could also be, the 5 steps to, again, achieve that thing.
Okay.
But I've tested all types of stuff and, it's always worth testing different things, even just changing the title around. But yeah, I mean, again, the important part is that the name of the thing aligns with what they want to achieve. And again, it could be like, I'm testing for a client, like having them download an Excel template that can help them manage and do what they're trying to do. Even though the software that the company provides like does it automatically. So you don't even need this Excel template, but it's kind of a stepping stone. And
Yeah.
and like they raise their hand because they have that thing because
I
they're like
like
willing
that.
to just get an Excel template for it. But yeah, the wording is really important and keeping it short and clear and compelling, right? So I'm always thinking about, because the attention spans are so small, especially on social media, like TikTok has ruined us all, but it's great too. Like
Yep.
everybody loves like, short form and we don't want to listen to, I don't know, a 2-hour video if we can get it chunked down to like 30 minutes or 20 minutes or
Right.
1 minute. So I'm always thinking about like, how do we get this into like 5 words or 6 words, but not like 12 words? Because as you're scrolling through a news feed, you're not going to read, like the subtitle and then description of, you know what I mean? So it's got to be to the point.
Okay. And do you like to start more narrow or more broad with your campaigns? You talked about this one campaign targeting CEOs, but you also targeted COOs and a couple other job titles. Is the goal to be like, hey, let's just target CEOs and COs in the energy industry, and then we'll target all CEOs, assuming that our product is relevant to them? Or do you like to work, kind of the opposite way?
You can do it both ways depending on where you're starting from. Like
Okay.
if you know your exact ICP and it's very narrow, then I think it's fine to start there. You also need an audience size that's big enough. Different people will have different numbers, but let's say you've got, in LinkedIn, like 20,000 people who meet this criteria. They're not all going to be on LinkedIn all the time,
Sure.
right? Maybe 4,000 of them are online and maybe you're getting outbid by other advertisers. So you're not reaching those 4,000, maybe you're reaching like 2,000 or 1,000. So we have to be mindful that there's a big enough audience that we're reaching. But what's really cool, so like if we start a little bit more broad, because sometimes a company will know kind of who they want to reach, but maybe there's a few different people they could reach or a few different industries. And they're like, we want to start with this industry, but we know we're really agnostic. We can have someone from any industry.
Yeah.
We get such great data back to see who's engaging, who's clicking, who's filling out the lead gen form, who's really interacting the most. So there's
Wow.
great data coming back. And then we can also basically take that data and use LinkedIn's AI to create a predictive audience that's going to say, oh, like a bunch of people who are engaging with these ads happen to have, these different skills or these job titles or in this industry, and they can predict who the next set of people will be that will engage and actually save a lot of money and drive performance a lot, which for this particular campaign that we started talking about,
Yeah.
generating 700 B2B leads in 1 month, a lot of it was driven by that because, the basically we all know how powerful AI is, and it can do a much better job than you and me of like
Sure.
trying to figure out, who would be ideal. And it could see data you and I can't even imagine. Like maybe they've been working at their job for 6 years and they live in Kentucky. Like who knows, right? But
Yeah,
it's
right.
pulling out data points that you and I couldn't even understand.
Yes, that's a great point. Talk to me about bidding strategies. How does that work on LinkedIn? And what have you found to be, maybe some little secret sauce or tips or hacks for getting the most out of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is one of those small little things that, people can screw up if they haven't done it before or they
Yeah.
kind of don't know what they're doing. And then it throws off everything downstream for the performance. So they offer a few different bidding strategies. The first one, the like automatic one they offer is called max delivery, maximum delivery. They're going to deliver as much as they can, spend as much as they can.
Sure.
Worst setting ever, never use it. You're going to pay at least like 3 times more than you need to.
Oh my
And
goodness. Okay.
LinkedIn, they're in the business of making money, so they're happy for you to bid much more than you need to, but turn that off immediately. You want to do manual bidding. And when you switch that on, LinkedIn will give you a range. It will say, we recommend you should bid between $25 to $50 to
Yep.
reach your target audience. And what you find out is you can bid below their recommendation. So they say it there like you kind of have to, or you should,
Yep.
because if you don't, like it's not gonna work. So if you bid at $20, you'll still reach people. If you bid at $15, you'll still reach. If you bid at $10, you'll still reach people. So you wind up saving like, what is that? Like it's like a 3x difference in the
Mhm.
cost, which everything downstream, how much pay, and this is cost per clicks, right? But you could do it based on cost per 1,000 impressions. You can do
Yep.
it based on cost per lead. So, but everything is affected downstream. So you need to severely underbid, and then you see if your budget's getting spent. If you're trying to spend $100 a day, you're bidding very low and you're spending $100 a day. You could even bid a little lower than that, and vice versa. If you're bidding too low and you're not even spending the 100, okay, bid a little higher. And there's going to be fluctuation. On the weekends, there's not going to be as many people maybe surfing LinkedIn, and your ads might not show as much, but it's crazy. It's just one of those things that I was talking to someone today, and like people don't know this, like unless you're sitting there and playing around with settings or trying to get, listening to your podcast, you're like, how are you going to know?
Right. Exactly. I like that. So have you ever run any campaigns for direct to consumer companies on LinkedIn?
Yes, they're few and far between. Maybe like 10% of all of the campaigns I've run are to consumer. The thing is on Facebook, and I don't know the exact stat, you're going to get a much lower cost per click, cost per lead. Everything's going to be dropped significantly. So there's usually like, if you could run the ads on Meta ads or on LinkedIn ads in your B2C, you just go right to Meta or TikTok or whatever else it is, Snapchat, who knows? There's a couple situations. Actually, one client I'm working with, they had their ad account on Meta had gotten suspended, like unfairly, like they didn't do anything wrong, but they just couldn't run ads there anymore. We're targeting people. It's kind of like career stuff, right?
Yeah.
So LinkedIn, aside from B2B, is also very job focused, career focused. So that approach works well, right? People are looking to change their jobs or improve their career. This one is courses in the sports industry. So if you're looking to become a scout in the NFL or that sort of thing, and there's people on there and we could target them. But yeah, the majority is B2B because it's going to be more expensive, and
Yeah.
you're getting I guess you're paying a premium or you're bidding against other people who are willing to get that targeting, that like, I want to target the CEO of some huge company, and that's a very valuable person to get in front of.
Correct. So the reason why I ask, I'm in the process of launching a nutrition product, and we're playing around with our, avatars. And I'm like, I can really see SEOs specifically going after this. I'm an SEO. That's my background. I can speak to SEOs and their needs that they have. It's an energy focused product. And I was like, I could see us running ads specifically to SEOs saying, listen, I get it. I've been an SEO for 19 years. Here's, kind of what you guys need to perform at your best. I wasn't thinking about LinkedIn, but do you think that we could sell this nutrition product on the platform? Or would you say, maybe way down the road, but honestly, still, even if you were going to just target SEOs on the platform, I would still start with Meta.
Yeah, I mean, so in this case, I would probably not want to spend the extra dollars to get the same. I mean, if you're really thinking like, oh, we do want to target people who do SEO and
Yeah.
we have some messaging that's really going to appeal to them and the marketing or the branding, like if it's really for them or it's
Yeah.
really like that, then sure. But otherwise, you're just going to spend more money. But again, if you do need to reach SEOs, that is the best way to target them. You can also do retargeting. So
Mm.
people might come to your website and leave. And now maybe they're on Meta, maybe they're on Google or YouTube, or maybe they're on LinkedIn too. And
Yeah.
so that's very cost effective because these are people that were already interested or came or heard of you at least once. So it's very cost effective to retarget to those people.
Okay. And then what about cost per lead, cost per acquisition type of numbers? What should we be shooting for? Obviously, I would imagine you're targeting a Fortune 500 CEO. That's different than targeting an SEO that probably not as many people are targeting them. So walk me through maybe some different averages or case studies type things that you can share.
Yeah, I generally say for a top of funnel lead or a middle of funnel lead. So this is not someone who's looking to buy your product today, but they're interested in some content you have. I'm typically seeing ranges of around $30 to $150 per lead.
Okay.
Like you said, it depends, right? So if it is CEOs of big companies, it's going to be more, and it could obviously go higher. But there's a lot of different factors,
Yeah.
and a lot of the major factors in what it's going to cost is those things we were talking about at the beginning. So is the messaging resonating, right? Is the name of the thing you're offering them, is it really like the thing that will like make their day and make their job easier, help them reach their goals? And I
Yeah.
think that that's where most of the cost comes from. There's also things like bidding we just talked about, right? So if you're using max delivery, instead of $50 leads, you now have $150 leads.
Yeah.
Like you said, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different factors. Also, the lead gen form, if we just want the email address and it's pre-filled. And can go on a tangent here, but one thing a lot of people miss is they have kind of the old model in their head, and Google Ads sort of requires this. I think they have lead gen forms now, but it's like basically you're sending people to a landing page on your website. Once they're on the landing page, then they have to fill out the form and submit the information. And I don't know what conversion rates are these days. Maybe it's 1 to 10%.
Yeah.
You probably know better than I do. In LinkedIn, in platform leads, you can generate them right there. Someone does not need to leave and go to your website, wait for your website to load, navigate through it, try to find the form field,
Love
type
it.
in their email address, second guess, like, do I want to be putting my email address into
Right.
this
Right.
field over
Right.
here?
Right.
LinkedIn, it's pre-filled, pre-populated, and you just click a button. So it's very frictionless and the conversion rate is way higher. So, I'm seeing conversion rates sometimes, I'd say on average of 25%, which is very high.
Yeah.
But again, it's another factor, right? So sometimes I'm starting with a client, they're having me like audit why is it not working? Why is it so much? And I'm looking and I'm like, well, of course, like,
Yeah.
you want them to fill out 8 fields on your website. Like you don't even want to do that,
Right.
but
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm thinking about right now is I can see LinkedIn being a great place to test ads, test ad concepts. So I'm wondering if you can share any examples where your clients were able to kind of transfer successful winning ads from LinkedIn to other platforms. Is there a good kind of transferability, I guess, of concepts where you're like, hey, if this, guide, white paper, checklist, lead magnet, you kind of test a bunch of different markets and job titles and you find kind of something that wins, then you kind of move it over to other platforms. Is that something that's worked well for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. And it can also inform what messaging might work best on your website, right? What's the headline? What's in the top of the fold that people are seeing most immediately? So yeah, seeing and the real indicator on that is a click-through rate.
Yeah.
So, if you had 5 different messages and 5 different ads, and you see this one has a click-through rate of 1.5%, and that one has a click rate of 0.5%, you could immediately tell people are more interested. And it's
Yeah.
always just funny if your product legitimately uses AI or does something with AI, you just see the click-through rate, yeah, go right up. And also I've transferred a copy from Meta ads over to LinkedIn, and that seems to work pretty well too. People are people
Yeah.
wherever you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. What are some other important components with running a successful ad campaign?
Yeah, another good one is people kind of overcomplicate things. And especially when working with designers, I have a lot of admiration and respect for designers, but sometimes they're getting into more designy, like adding a lot of elements and a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. And the thing, marketers talk about empathy a lot. So if you put yourself in the shoes of yourself, and you're scrolling whatever social media you're on. Maybe you're on TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever. And you're just scrolling and you see an ad, you see an image for like a second.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 1.5 seconds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't possibly consume all of the like 20 words jammed in there with these other elements and the logo and the website URL in the like let's just talk about an image ad, right? Like so
Right.
people put like all of these different things in there and it's just like they don't even know what the point was. Like what was the thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I find that's the simplicity of it. If you can really bring it down to like under 6 words, like a billboard.
Yeah.
AJ Wilcox is another LinkedIn ads guy. He's great. And he talks about, you're driving by in the freeway, you see a billboard, you got like a second, 6 words, 8 words,
Yeah.
7. You cannot put 20 words on there. And you only need like a
Exactly.
bajillion design
Yeah.
elements.
Yeah.
And so,
And I
yeah.
can't tell you how many billboards I see, and I'm like, you can't read all that. That's like, what's the one point you want me to get? So yes, please continue.
Yeah, no, it's true. And so, yeah, recently I was working with a graphic designer, love her work, but I just had to strip away things and kind of just
Yeah.
rebuild it. So it's like, and here's the main components. The first one is just that. Again, just imagine we have an image and, we can use square, like a 1:1 aspect ratio is going to work best because it can
Yep.
show on desktop and mobile, right? And LinkedIn, if you're making something horizontal or vertical, it might or might not show as much in the other device type. So if you have a square image at the top, you want that headline that's very short and to the point. It's like should be very clear, but also compelling for what they want, what their goals or their pain. Are you struggling with XYZ? And then if it's a lead magnet, a downloadable thing, we just want a big image of what that thing is you're going to get. It could be the standard like 3D graphic of what an ebook, might look like, or it could be a digital version of it on an iPad or something. But that's mostly it. Like we don't need to add in your logo. We could add in a button that's like download now or click here. But
Yep.
even if you don't add that in, like it still sometimes it performs better. So just trying to keep it simple and focus on that resonance of what they really want, and then just showing this glorious thing they're going to get that's going to solve that problem for them. And then connecting that to a lead gen form, which is in LinkedIn's platform. So they're not going over to a landing page, having to type in their information.
Yep.
That performs really well. And people will miss like those basics and then they'll be overpaying or kind of frustrated of like why it's not working. And it's like, well, you're jamming a lot into that image there
Yep.
and sending them off to your web page. That's a little hard to navigate. It's
Yep.
just like it's not going to perform as well.
Yeah. Walk me through how many ads you like to see, campaigns have, business owners have when they launch a new campaign. I can see my concern is that you have the extremes. If I were to set one up, I may just do one or I may do 10. Maybe like 10's like way too much and one is not enough. Like, what is that sweet spot?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think it's also related to how much budget you're spending because in the very
Okay.
beginning, it's about data. Like ultimately, the goal of running paid media is for ROI. We want to put money in and get money out. But the very first money we're putting in is data to learn empirically what's performing well and what's not. So I think it's good to start with 4 or 5 ads.
Okay.
Because again, if you're dividing up across 4 or 5 ads, you have to wait a certain amount of time to get enough data that you can have more confidence that like this is meaningful data, that this ad got more leads and that one got less, and or the cost per lead for this ad was lower. But if it's based on like a couple of leads, it's like the opposite of statistically significant. It could be
Yes.
completely random. And recently I launched a campaign well, there was 12 ads I put in the campaign, and I did it in 3 campaigns, so there was 36 ads. And then a few days later, I'm like kicking myself, like, why did I? But the other trade-off here is frequency.
Yeah.
So if someone is seeing the same 3 or 4 or 5 ads a million times, they're going to get bored of it. And so by having variety, it kind of keeps it interesting that like you're not just seeing the same 3 or 4 ads 100 times. You're
Yeah.
seeing a variety of different things. But yeah, now I'm a little bit stuck because I've spread it a little too thin. And now so now what I have to do, because it's really the same 12 ads in 3 different campaigns, is I have to like manually try to compile like the same ad across 3 different campaigns. And
Mhm.
yeah, 4 or 5 ads is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
One is not enough.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And then what about follow up? I collect their information, which they freely give. Let's say they didn't fill it out on my website, but I did it all through LinkedIn. What are some of the best or most creative, most effective strategies for follow up? I mean, do I just message them in LinkedIn, I assume, or, are there other good tactics there?
Yeah, such a great question. I'm so glad you brought it up because a lot of clients I work with, they just completely drop the ball. And it's not in my scope of work. Sometimes I will
Yeah,
help with it and, advise or even implement it for them, especially in HubSpot with workflows and automation like that. But there's got to be something. You have to have email nurturing coming up frequently. If we're getting phone numbers, you shouldn't be shy. Give them a call. Try to give them a call as soon as, you get the lead. Don't wait 24 hours because then they forgot and they're like, who the heck is this? Why are you calling
sure.
me? It could be rough if you're calling someone kind of, they're not expecting it. But sometimes you just catch them at the right moment and they're
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, like, hey, I'm struggling with this thing. And
yeah,
what's the name of your company again? Okay, cool. And it just leads down this path of now they're on a, booked a demo for 2 days from now. But
yeah.
you're right. Also talking about LinkedIn. So there's three areas. We want the automated emails going out to them. Personalized is better if there's time for that. Phone calls. And then, yeah, send them a connection request on LinkedIn.
Mm,
Once they accept it, say, you and I connected on LinkedIn,
yeah,
right? Send a friendly message. Hey, great
yep,
to connect with you, whatever it is. Because you never know. People might never respond to an email, but on LinkedIn, they're happy to just message with people all day long.
yep,
And, you have to do that diligently and in a disciplined way, right? As a marketer,
yep.
you can't just send two emails and then they never hear from you again. So you want to have that drip going out. But it's tough with email marketing, as you know, like subject lines matter, click-through rates. It's. But again, it's a real opportunity to get in front of and build your brand and recognition with someone who has the pain or the problem that you solve. And a subset of those people will move further down the marketing and sales funnel and eventually become customers.
I like it. Tom, what do you feel like the top 1% of your customers have in common?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Well, they're all B2B. They're all trying to target a pretty specific person,
Mhm.
and they all have a really high value offer that they can provide. So, if your service is $10 a month
Yeah,
or $50 a month, the amount you're going to spend on, buying LinkedIn ads, as well as, my work to set it up and implement it all, the ROI is not going to be great. But if you're selling, some clients I'm working with, they could have an annual contract value of $50,000 or $200,000. It doesn't have to be that high.
right.
Maybe it's $10,000. Maybe there's an enterprise level and then there's different tiers, and maybe some people will grow into that. But it's really great. I mean, if you're selling a product or service that it's in at least $10,000,
Yeah.
the ROI can really be fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that up because I don't think a lot of people think about that. And kind of going back to my nutrition
Yeah.
example, a $50 product, you have to find a way to scale that super affordably because you can't pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to acquire a customer unless you have just a great LTV. Whereas, my old SEO agency, which was serving law firms and, it's $5,000, $10,000 a month, I could probably spend an unlimited amount of money and it would have a great benefit on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that's one thing I just love about B2B is
Yeah.
you're not fighting for nickels.
Right.
There's like real business and real money companies are willing to invest, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
B2C is challenging, and I've tried it in the past and I've struggled too.
Sure.
Kind of just, yeah, trying to reach people and just trying to do it in an affordable way that then I can have, a good ROI. Companies do it.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it's a lot harder, in some ways. I think it's even more admirable because it can be tougher for someone to nail B2C. I have a lot of respect for it. Maybe it's a sign that I wasn't able to cut it in B2C. So I went to B2B. I was like, well, we have more wiggle room here for error.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just got to take the easier road. I was just reading an email to my sister the other day from Alex Hormozy, and it was like, hey, if you have a hard path and an easy path, like, why are you trying to take the hard path? So, everybody needs to figure out how they can really maximize either the kind of the upfront product value or the long-term value, because that just really allows you to spend more to acquire that customer up front.
Yeah, and it's super important, and you have to roll in a whole bunch of expenses that it's kind of easy to forget about, right? But if you have a salesperson that's setting meetings, and I don't know, sometimes a company will have like a custom setup or integration that they need to do, and you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's, it's challenging for businesses. It's been a more challenging environment the last couple of years
Yeah.
for tech companies.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts, suggestions, hacks that people definitely want to know if they're going to kind of set up maybe their own test campaign?
I suppose, watch something instructive or follow, some useful information of which campaign settings. There's a couple of other campaign settings we can talk about,
Okay.
LinkedIn audience network and campaign expansion. You want to have those ones off. So, you could be sort of dead in the water right out of the gates if a couple of things are just not really set up right. So watch out for those. Targeting is really powerful. And, if your targeting is right, your messaging is right, and you've got a great lead magnet and a lead gen form with good copywriting on it, we can have great success.
Yeah, love it. For people that want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they could find me on LinkedIn or, email me, tom@tamarin.agency. Or yeah, I'm happy to help if anyone has questions or is stuck and, wants someone to look at their ads. I'm happy to.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
All right.